Hello and welcome to today's LOL Esports Roundup. We're going to cover the four best of ones that took place earlier today at Worlds 2023 and then preview the two series that will take place tomorrow that serve as elimination series. So, predictions I went 4-0 on the day, 26-9 at Worlds. If you'd like to participate in predictions, join the Discord. You can join the thread and post daily. We keep track so we can keep everybody honest. In terms of today, so T1 C9, T1 win. Zeus 307, 31% of damage top lane. I think he played a Rumble or a Jax. The matchup was, I think, Rumble Jax. Owner 708 was MVP. Eminez 010, 32% of damage in the loss. So Eminez flips heads in this one. Didn't end his face off. But this was a complete and utter blowout, one of the biggest, if not the biggest blowout of Worlds thus far across all games. That includes play-ins. Cloud9 did not get a single kill. They were in perfect game territory until 19 minutes when they took a turret. Just real ugly performance. Owner set the pace, got ahead of Blabber, and just was everywhere. They had Blabber on Bel'Veth. I think Bel'Veth, I'm not a Bel'Veth fan. I always joke when Kanavi picks it, and I'm like, really, this is what we're doing? It's just not great. Not a great look for me. And Cloud9 just couldn't do anything with it, frankly. Just an ugly, ugly game. Now, back to Owner. He set the pace. Went topside, went bot side. Like, Faker only had 9% of damage on Sylas in this game. Like, that's pretty much a support. The alts weren't that great on the other side for him to take, and yet he still picked the Sylas. But it didn't make a difference. Like, it was essentially 4v5, and T1 crushed Cloud9. In bot side, I thought Berserker's Ven kind of kept up versus how they played last year. But they had no impact on the game outside of just slowly losing. Just an ugly, ugly game. There's not really much to say because Cloud9 didn't respond. Like, it was just T1 crushing. Like, people like to throw around the word stomp and crush and smashed and all this to describe how games are. No, that's what this is. This is crushing a team. This is smashing a team. This is dominating and destroying a team. Winning a game off of a couple team fights at the end is not destroying a team. This is destroying the team. It was ugly. NRG Mad Lions. NRG win. FBI MVP on KSA. KSA had a great day today. 12-4-6, 29% of damage. Contracts 3-11. Niski 4-5-13, 31% of damage in the loss. Back and forth. A complete fiesta, as you would expect from two teams that are very mid. The fact that they're both at this tournament is mind-boggling, and the fact that NRG are now 2-1 because of who they've gotten to face is also pretty mind-boggling. But it is what it is. They are 2-1. So, what are we going to do about it, right? The draw is what it is. A lot of people complaining, saying it's rigged. If you can rationalize why Riot would want to rig it, I guess that could follow suit. Just simply saying I don't think it's fair and I think it's rigged and scripted is, I think, a little lazy. Like, I don't see why Riot would want to purposely hurt their return and revenue and viewership by giving bad matchups or matchups that people don't want. But maybe we're in the minority when it comes to not liking these matchups. That's another thought. But in the late game, FBI was huge in team fights, just like diving on in there, dealing a shit ton of damage. Karzi played Neela. There were some moments where he popped off and it was like, oh wow, this champ is a thing. Again, remember, it's a thing. We don't see it a lot. But it didn't make much of a difference. Ignar had some great engages on Rel throughout this one, especially in the mid game. When it was back and forth, it was for a long time. NRG took a couple Drakes, then Mad started taking a couple Drakes. Mad Lions choose to take Drake, and NRG say, fine, we'll take Baron. Down 4v5, they were able to do that. Contracts on Maokai, putting out an ulti to zone. That Maokai ulti is completely OP, at the highest level of play at this tournament because you can play around it. It is massive. That's why Silas is such an important pick. Now, when you get Silas and Maokai, like Energy did, then you have a thing, you have a situation. If you're Mad Lions, where how do we offset this Maokai ulti? How do we play against it? It's tough. It's tough to do that. So, just a messy game. It ends with Mad Lions taking an Elder, but Energy backdooring. Like one of those messy games. BLG Fnatic, BLG win, Elk 617, 44% of damage. On 1-1 and 11, so the bot lane 7-2-18. Oscar Rinnan 242, 29% of damage in the loss on a Poppy. If a Poppy is leading your team in damage, you've probably lost. That is not a recipe for success. Fnatic played very well in this game. 25 minutes, the gold lead was less than 2K for BLG. So, it's unfortunate. Yesterday when I went over this game, I was like, this game is the one. It'll decide how likely it is that BLG are going to not make the quarterfinals. And I also had Fnatic as that fringe ninth team that I thought there is an angle there where I honestly think they are capable of getting to the quarterfinals. And they came close. Some people wanted to say it didn't, but the fact that we got to 25 minutes and it was a team fight, I mean, that's a lot better than what a lot of people would have expected between BLG and Fnatic, right? I think BLG actually have looked the way I thought they would, just kind of good, not great at this event, like playing down to their opponents, barely beating their opponents, losing to their opponents, JDG. So, and not in like a close fashion, like they got blown out. So, it's not a surprise. Like, Bin looked very good in the late game, but in the early game against Oscarin, that was a matchup. Bin's the better player, and Sean went up there, Yagao went up there after Yagao entered his face-off in mid lane against Humanoid. The matchup, obviously, Orianna favored given range against Akali, but still entered his face-off and over-pursued and died. But then we go topside and alter that in a 3v1 dive to kill Oscarin later on, and Humanoid was late to that. And I'd argue that you'd rather not go at all than be late. Because in that case, if you don't go at all, you're able to at least maybe take a plate in mid, do something like that. Instead, you go up there late and you don't offset shit. And just, it's not a great look. But in the late game team fights, once again, the AD carry just swoops on in, deals a ton of damage, and wins the game. Essentially the way I look at it. Razork didn't die at all, which is good for him. On the Ivern, Sean did his job. And Elk obviously carrying that team, and then Ben having a great team fight towards the end on the Jax. I think he had a triple kill in that one to kind of seal the deal there. So, I had BLG winning, so this is not a big surprise, but it is, it is a surprise that BLG allowed Fnatic to stay in the game as long as they did. Lastly, KT Weibo. So this was another fiesta. Cuz was my MVP on Viego. Aiming 14-3-7, 39% of damage on a Kaisa. BDD 419 on a Nico. Light 328, 36% of damage on a Sivir. So Light playing a little passively at times. And then in big team fights, aiming was just everywhere on the Kaisa, and really he couldn't match it. But this game went back and forth. KT with a very early lead. Taking it, really setting the pace. Cuz pretty much gapping Weiwei. Massive lead. Weiwei was on a J4, I think, and like I said, Cuz was on Viego, and he was just ahead, and there was no catching him. Now KT inted a fight on topside really sticking out to me, where Lahens tried to hook Xiaohu. Now Xiaohu, like Faker today, played a terrible game when it comes to literally having no impact. Like, I think he had I would say low teens amount of damage percentage. Not very good. And in doing so, I guess his brightest moment was baiting out that hook. Lahens misses. Weibo are able to get a couple kills, start crawling back into this one. They get a good fight around Baron and crawl back in some more. And it ends up being a situation where, it's a 5K gold lead at 35 minutes, 30 minutes or so, but these teams are so good that lead is not showing up in way of full items and things like that. And aiming just kind of comes through in team fights in the end. I did debate on making BDD MVP, though, because, speaking of Xiaohu again, because These videos are all over the place when I talk about games. I did think about this. So BDD went bot side on Nico. Zhao Hu does not follow, and he makes something happen, right? And we talked about how BDD, Zhao Hu, Faker are all Yagao, very, very facilitator centric. They're not carry oriented mids anymore. In the case of Faker, Zhao Hu maybe never was, and BDD maybe never really was carry oriented. And you say to yourself, well, who is making more things happen? Because really, none of these guys are going to be resource heavy by the end of it all. And in this one, Zhao Hu and BDD aren't going to be resource heavy. It's going to be aiming and light. Or in Weibo's case, the Shy as well. Keen playing very well into the Shy, almost solo killing him at one point before the rest of his team showed up to finish the deal for KT. BDD did more, frankly. And that is huge. That was a matchup to watch, but Cuz gapping Weiwei the way he did was, I think, a bigger deal, but it is something to note that BDD actually got something done where Zhao Hu did not. And that helps get aiming and Lehen's in a good spot in the laning phase. Of course, they kind of throw that away, but it was there. Lastly, so sneak peek for tomorrow. We have 2 best of 3s. This determines who goes home before we start the second week of Swiss Stage. Team Liquid and GAM Esports. They have never crossed paths at an international event. However, last year at Worlds 2022, the junglers did. Levi and Pioshik. Pioshik was with DRX, obviously winning Worlds. And then Levi. So Pioshik went 4-18 in those 2 games combined. Levi 3-8-9. At 15 minutes, Pioshik did have a diffie, a little bit of a lead. 384 gold, 6 CS, 259 XP on average. So Pioshik slightly ahead of Levi. When I think of Pioshik, I do think of a carry-oriented jungler more so than a facilitator. The Kindred, obviously, being carry-oriented. So that's the thing where Levi is also carry-oriented. So that's the matchup to watch tomorrow. I do think that matchup's going to be a lot closer than people want to give it credit for. In part, I did see some stuff on social media. I swear I thought I saw Team Liquid kind of taking GAM lightly, throwing some shade, and I don't think that they're really in a position to do that. I really don't think you should overlook GAM. I know I've advocated for VCS a lot at this tournament, and they really haven't done anything, except Team Wales getting that upset against BDS. So, I really do think Liquid should be, being a little more... what's the word I'm looking for? A little more respectful. After that, we have D plus BDS. Never have they crossed paths. So BDS, Adam's the only player that's been to an international event. And technically, Kana and Adam were both at Worlds 2021, but never played against each other. So there's nothing to go off of there when it comes to that. So we kind of got a theory craft. Obviously, D plus are better than BDS. But we have to keep in mind BDS, Garen and Darius top. Does Kana have an answer? If not, BDS or D plus going to ban it. Do BDS have something planned in the instance that happens? Because frankly, right now that is what needs to happen. So if we all know that's what D plus needs to do, then BDS also has to self scout and be like, when they do this, we need to have a plan. So they've had days to figure it out. Let's see if they have a plan. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.